Hello, good evening, good morning, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to another PyConline AU news update. On this evening's stream, I have two marvellous guests who you will have seen before on these streams. Amanda, Nikki, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Fantastic. Well. Yeah, really good.
Really good to see you. Now, before we kick off, I just want to call out here, Nikki, we were chatting earlier about, how to introduce you. And I thought, well, hang on a second. Many PyCon AU attendees last year will have met the youngest member of the PyCon AU family. So we will keep this stream short, but how is Alex?
Yes, she is excellent. She's grown a little bit, but not very much since we last saw her last year. Her favorite word is bye-bye, but for Python is, not for snake, for Python is coming up close behind.
Marvelous. And I think this is really important because you've got to start them on Python as early as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. As soon as they can move their fingers. She's already broken one keyboard, so.
You can type a print statement with a single finger. Now, it's good to see people coming up in chat. Hello there, everyone. Now, in promoting this stream earlier tonight, I was very rightly informed that you can't actually have a fireside chat without fire. So, true to the internet, tonight is a candlelit conversation. True to the internet. I'll put this proper way safely.
Yes, please.
All right, no fire on stream tonight. Now, tonight is all about our student showcase as part of the education specialist track at the conference. Can you take us back to the very beginning, Nikki, and share with us a little bit about how this showcase got started?
Yeah, so the problem is that students are just too good, I think. That's the short version. Quite a few years ago, some students started applying to the main conference and they got accepted. And then we thought that was unfair because what's left for us poor adults? Let's give them their own box and put them there. No, so we were really excited to see some students, high school students, coming into the conference, talking about some cool things that they'd done. And some of them had banded together and three of them had given short talks in one main conference slot. And we thought that was a format that worked really well and thought that we should encourage other students to give quick short talks about something cool. And it grew from there.
Fantastic. Yeah. I love that the students have created their own track format as part of the conference. It doesn't take a conference team, it takes students to come up with this kind of stuff. I think that really speaks to some of the creativeness and ingenuity of some of the presentations that we've seen at PyConline AU as part of the student showcase. Can you tell us a little bit more about those students who've participated? Where have they come from? What are they doing in the world of Python?
Yeah, so the range of students that we've seen is from all the way through high school, so years 7 to 12, South Australia. We sneak a couple of those upper primary kids in as well. They've presented a really diverse set of things. Some of them have talked about pet projects with robotics, building games. Some of them have talked about school assignments that they've done individually or in group.
We've had some NPL, which has been pretty, so natural language process, NLP, sorry, and Nikki gets very excited.
I get very excited about word things. Very, very excited about word things. Really, really a diverse range. Projects that worked, projects that didn't work, demos that were fantastic, some that failed spectacularly and got the audience even more excited and supportive. It's been great so far, and I'm really excited to see fantastic and creative things this year and in the future.
That's fantastic. I had no idea that students were doing natural language processing. That is so inspiring and awesome. Amanda, these projects sound really polished and finished. Is that the case, or are we seeing sort of a creative work in progress?
Many of them are a creative work in progress. The most interesting, actually, I think, are the ones where they say, okay, so this spectacularly failed, but then I did this instead. I think that it's the story that is really great for teachers, education specialists, and anyone else in the room to see what happened in a real project when you're really a novice learning.
And there's so much to that about learning in the open as well, saying, hey, I got this far, but maybe I need some help, and find some collaborators or mentors.
Absolutely. And we like that there's this big range of ages. We don't just want the major works that students have worked forever on. We want passion projects. We want, I just wanted to do a thing and I kind of gave it a go. It's really important that we see the whole high school and upper primary experience.
What I particularly like is there have been a few stories of students who have presented on works in progress and where they've gotten to thus far, and then had members of the audience afterwards follow up with them and offer support and guidance on an ongoing basis to help get their project working even better and implementing even more features.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Now, maybe as a jump ahead in our talking points, but because we're doing video this year, I'd love to see an update on some of those projects. If you were a student from previous years and you've got something really exciting to share, maybe submit a quick update going, hey, here's what I've learned in the last year and here's how far that project's come. I'd love to see some of that learning continuing across multiple PyCons.
I bet we could even sneak in some university student updates as well, even if you don't feel like you fit into the school category there as well.
We can be sort of creative with our scheduling. I'm sure we can make that possible. So what does an example talk look like as part of the showcase?
It really ranges. Students have talked about passion projects, as Amanda said, things that they've started on at a coding extracurricular activity and just kept hacking on by themselves independently. We've heard about school projects done as part of a computing class or as part of other classes.
Or a club.
Clubs. There could be individual students talking about something that they've built, groups of students doing group assignments. I would even be more than happy to hear a student representative talking about their class's experience in learning Python and building a thing. We just want to hear from students about what they're doing and what they think is cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I think the other thing I'd love to hear from is still the sort of youth student side of things. But if you're learning at home, it doesn't have to be part of a course or a club. If you're doing a hobby project with your parents or with family who have been teaching you to code, I'd love to hear some of those stories. I know that some of my teammates are teaching their kids to code in Python, and I'd love to see some of those projects showcased as well. So it's not just as part of your class, but it's also any other Python you might be working on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, let's turn a little bit to our specialist track attendees. Why do adults want to hear from students?
Well, our specialist track is aimed at teachers and people who work in education and people have an interest in education. So it's really, it's an inspiring session for teachers to see what kids are capable of, and it really opens up educators' minds as to what the possibilities are. And so we're always taught to make our projects extensible so that the kids that are putting in that extra time at home or really excited about learning, that they have somewhere to go outside of the scope of the curriculum, or even in a code club outside of the tutorial or whatever we're working through. And so it gives you an idea of where you can aim at different ages. It's really exciting that way.
And for the non-teachers, for the rest of us, it's just really fun. I really like hearing what the kids have been doing and being inspired and learning stuff. I've got a background in natural language processing, and I learned some really cool stuff from the NLP projects that these high school kids have done. It was great.
I remember having a quick chat in the corridor at last year's conference with a parent who'd sort of poked their head into the specialist track room, and they'd been inspired to see what other kids who were the same age as their kids, those projects that they'd worked on, and they were inspired to talk to their kids about learning to code because there was an overlap there. So I think there's lots of sort of inspiring creative moments that can come of this showcase. And it's a moment for kids to be proud of what they've built as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other part of that is that some of the younger students get to come up and talk about the cool thing they've been and that they've built. And that's inspiring for students. But then they're also seeing what people with a little bit more Python experience can make, and a little bit more Python experience. And it's a really nice progression.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can create a family of Pythonistas coming through over the next few years as part of the education specialist track. Now, conference is in 4 weeks' time. The conference is the 4th to the 6th of September, which means we're just 4 weeks away. Now, what do the dates and the deadlines look like for anyone who has a project, who might be watching this video, who are watching this stream and are going, how do I submit? How do I show my project off as part of this showcase? How do people get involved?
So the submission deadline is the first critical date that you've got to think about, and that's this Friday. If you don't think you can have a finished, polished product by then, that's fine. It's really, the submission process is really simple. It's a couple of sentences. Tell us about what you've done. Tell us about what you're doing. We just want to hear from you. Tell us about you. Yeah, that's right. And then after that, we're getting all of the students to pre-record their short talks. It's about a 10-minute talk, so it's not too long. It doesn't have to be fancy recording. Just do it on your phone, your laptop, whichever. And we'll ask for that in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
So we've got a conference in 4
weeks, but we've got to do it fairly soon to be able to edit together all that video.
But it doesn't have to be finished. I just want to reiterate that you don't have to have a finished, polished product, project, whatever to talk about. Just something. Tell us what you've done.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Now, for some people who might be watching this video after the fact, perhaps this weekend, and they've just seen that the deadline has passed, do you think we can squeeze them in for maybe Sunday or Monday?
Look, if you sneak in a form submission, I'm not very good at sticking to deadlines. Amanda is fantastic at them, but I'm a bit of a bleeding heart. So let us know. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our big message there would be submit early. And if you've forgotten, if you've submitted already, submit again.
Submit early, submit often.
That is a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned that in previous years, we've had both individuals presenting and groups where they've shown off like a team project. Would you say it's the same for this year? Would you like to hear from teams as well?
Absolutely. That's a simple answer.
Just one person in the team generally submits, and then they just put in the notes the names of the other members and how many are in the team.
Because this year you're going to be pre-recording the talks as well, there's a lot more flexibility to do some cool stuff. If you've done a group project with 5 kids, getting everyone to talk in a 10-minute talk is very tricky. But you can do fantastic things with editing. So there's some real opportunity for creative inspiration there.
I look forward to seeing what everyone comes up with. This is one of the more creative and different parts of the specialist track. And I, for one, am really excited to see what everyone is going to showcase. Before we wrap up this stream, I've just got a couple of questions. So we've spoken a lot around students and their projects. But if you've got one message for parents, Nikki, if there's a mum or a dad listening to this going, oh, you know, my kid's got a project, I'd love them to submit. What message do you have for parents?
Get them to submit. Yes, any students you know, any kids you know who are hacking on something that you think is cool, that's a fairly good metric for whether we'll think it's cool. The PyCon community is ridiculously supportive. Please just encourage anyone you know to throw a few sentences into the form and let us know what they're doing.
Awesome. And Amanda, a similar question for you, but for any teachers that might be watching this stream. I know, for example, tomorrow I'm doing a session with a code club and I'll be talking to both students and teachers. What message might you have for any educators that are watching this video who have students in their class or their cohort who've got a project?
Yeah. So what we'd like you to understand is that you don't have to pre-filter. You don't have to say, okay, this is the best kid in my class, I'm going to get them to submit. Just encourage everybody who has the ability to be videoed and has something interesting to tell us to submit, because it's not always the project that gets full marks that shows the best story. And so we want to hear about the story.
I love that. It's not about the marks, it's about the story. I wish I'd have heard that years ago when I was learning to code.
We love a good story.
Now, as we wrap up this stream, we should probably tell people where to go to submit. We've had it up on screen the whole time. You can head across to the Education Specialist Track site on the pycon.org.au website. It's down there. So head to pycon.org.au/program. And you can also go to the Education Specialist Track on that page or follow the link. We'll make sure that there's a link in the description and the tweets. Make sure you put in those submissions by the end of this week. Nikki, Amanda, it's so good to see you virtually. I can't wait to see you at the conference in 4 weeks' time, along with all of these amazing students as part of the showcase.
We're
Thank
really
you and good
looking
night.
forward to it.